You think danger is a shout. You imagine it as knives, sirens, visible enemies with names you can spit out. But that's naive. The real danger slips in like a whisper, a habit, a leak in the foundation of you. It's the small, repeating soft failures that invite predators, not just the obvious ones. Machiavelli taught rulers how to survive by reading what people reveal about themselves without meaning to. This is the modern version, 3 weaknesses that do more to mark you as prey than any public argument or viral mistake. If you fix them, you stop looking like an offer. If you don't, no amount of charisma, talent, or good intent will save you. Here's the thing, power isn't a trophy, it's a shape. The way you stand, the choices you tolerate, the silence you allow. Learn the shape, change the shape, and others stop testing you. The first weakness is predictability. People who get trapped by this don't notice it because it's boring. They are honest to a fault, consistent to a fault, and available to a fault. But consistency can be a leash. Imagine you live in a city where every day you leave through the same gate at the same time, wearing the same expression. A camera would pick you out in a second. A rival notices the pattern, and patterns are maps. You can be not just read but manipulated because the world starts to anticipate you. Machiavelli's counsel to princes was simple: cultivate unpredictability where it matters. The modern translation: unpredictability is not chaos, it's control masked as mystery. Predictability manifests in 3 ways: emotional transparency, schedule hygiene, and tactical honesty. Emotional transparency is the easy part. You show your moods like a dashboard. When you reveal too much, you hand people menus of what to order: sympathy, anger, guilt. Emotional expression is human, but when it becomes a lever others can pull to get a reaction, you've lost bargaining power. Schedule hygiene is the practical part. Always the same cafe, the same route home, the same replies within 5 minutes. The world will learn to time attacks when you're distracted. Tactical honesty is the strategic trap. You explain your reasoning publicly. You tell people your limits and thresholds. You signpost where you will yield. That knowledge lets others design strategies against you. The fix is not deceit for its own sake. The fix is reserve. Hold some of your feeling back. Vary your routes. Stop promising the exact limits of your patience. Make it costly for others to predict you. This sounds theatrical, but it's low cost and high return. Change small habits and you force a rival to guess. If they must guess, they must hedge. If they hedge, they act slower. If they act slower, you can respond. The human brain hates uncertainty, and that anxiety works in your favor when someone else is the uncertain one. Unpredictability creates friction for attackers. Predictability smooths the path. The safest players keep a part of themselves unreadable, not dishonest, just reticent. There's dignity in that. The second weakness is the hunger for approval. Some people wear their audience like armor. They craft their voice to please, to collect likes, to earn nods. That hunger is an open wound. It turns decisions into polls and leadership into performance. When your aim becomes the applause instead of truth or advantage, you become pliable. People who crave approval will bend principles, tolerate small humiliations, and blink when pressure arrives. That's a recipe for being exploited. Machiavelli wouldn't admire pandering. He would call it the soft underbelly of a ruler. Approval addiction shows itself as over-explaining, over-apologizing, and overcompensating. You over-explain because you fear being misunderstood. You over-apologize because you fear losing face. You overcompensate because any dip in validation is a threat to identity. These are not moral failings so much as survival strategies turned brittle. Fixing this starts with shifting the metric. Replace "do they like me" with "does this move my objective forward?" Replace the audience's applause with a narrower test. Did my decision advance my goals, protect my people, or preserve my option? That swap is small in language and radical in function. But we don't stop at reframing. Approval addiction is physiological. It fires the same circuits in your brain as hunger. You must create new feedback loops. Practice saying the uncomfortable thing in safe setting. Say no without flinching. Allow silence instead of filling it with soothing words. Cultivate 1 or 2 people whose approval doesn't sway you, mentors who demand truth, not flattery. When you build taste for candor, the applause becomes background noise. The more you tolerate disapproval, the less you can be coerced by it. The third weakness, and the most dangerous, is a fixed moral rigidity masquerading as virtue. People who believe themselves morally superior are magnets for clever predators. Why? because moral certitude announces limits. It says, I will not do X, I will not compromise here, I draw a line in the sand. Most enemies can work around your line. Worse, opponents can weaponize your morality against you. They can force you into choices where every option looks like a betrayal unless you bend. Then they keep pushing the same lever until you break or retreat publicly. Machiavelli taught leaders to be flexible in public ethics while keeping an inner core of personal honor. The modern translation is strategic morality. Pick principles you will not abandon and make the rest tactical. Rigid moralism shows up as sanctimony, as moral grandstanding, as an unwillingness to see nuance. It's the person who shouts, never negotiate, the moment negotiation would save lives or careers. It's the leader who fires someone for a minor indiscretion in order to prove a point, only to create a vacuum someone else will exploit. The fix is practice in ethical agility. Learn to carry two truths at once, what you believe ethically and what the situation requires materially. This doesn't mean compromise your soul. It means refusing to be pure at the cost of being wiped out. The highest moral act sometimes is the one that ensures your survival so you can continue to do good. That's not hypocrisy, that's calculation. Let's put these weaknesses into context with humans you know. The colleague who takes every insult personally and answers every criticism with a long, defensive text, predictable. The influencer who edits every post to maximize likes and then collapses when a single thread turns against them, approval hungry. The activist who refuses any tactical compromise and watches their movement fragment because they wouldn't tolerate messy alliances, morally rigid. In every case, the pattern is the same. A visible habit invites an exploit, and the exploit becomes the story that people use to corner you. You don't have to be cunning to be safe. You need three things: boundaries, opacity, and flexibility. Boundaries are tactical. They protect resources, time, emotional capital. Opacity is strategic. It keeps your enemies guessing. Flexibility is moral. It lets you adapt without betraying what matters. Build them like a house. Boundaries are the walls. Opacity is the lock. Flexibility is the plumbing that lets you reroute when the terrain floods. How do you practice these? Start with micro-experiments that are non-dramatic but telling. For unpredictability, change one ritual each week. Take a new route to work. When offered a reaction, pause 3 breaths before you reply. Let someone else fill the silence. For approval, assign value to the result and punish the applause. Keep a small ledger. Every major choice, write the outcome and not the reactions it received. Over time, the ledger will recondition you. For moral flexibility, role-play worst-case scenarios with people you trust. Ask, would I betray this value if the alternative saved 1,000 lives? Force the question into your muscle memory so, when the moment comes, you have a practiced answer. This is practical, not theatrical, and it's why Machiavelli kept returning to practice over principle. He argued that virtue without prudence is vanity. The word virtue back then, virtu, wasn't moral purity. It was effectiveness, the capacity to act in line with reality. If you want to stop being a target, treat your ethics as a tool to be sharpened, not a flag to be planted. There's an ugly truth here you should face. The world preys on signals. We are a species addicted to shortcuts. If you wear weakness as a uniform, someone will tailor an assault. The better your social skills, the more dangerous this is, because social skill makes you visible and desirability attracts hunters. So attractiveness must be tempered with a refusal to display exploitable seams. The people who survive longest in high-pressure arenas are those who make themselves less useful as targets. They are not anonymous, they are not above the fray. They are simply harder to read and more costly to move. Stories help. Consider a man, call him Marco, who rose through a ruthless corporate ladder. Early on he was gregarious, always available, the first to take blame publicly to keep morale high. He thought vulnerability would make him loyal allies. It did for a while. Then an ambitious subordinate started timing his moves, scheduling meetings when Marco's attention was scattered, presenting choices that forced him to publicly defend a losing position. Marco's predictability and hunger for approval turned into tools used against him. He lost a promotion and then lost faith in his circle. What changed when he adapted was small. He answered emails with a delay when the content bore no urgency. He stopped volunteering for public sacrifices when they served others optics. He started vetting the intentions of people who praised him effusively. The result wasn't coldness, it was muscle memory for discretion. Marco's world didn't become safer, it became more navigable. When a rival tested him again, the rival hesitated because the old map no longer worked. Another story, a political activist, call her a Shah, refused alliances with anyone who didn't meet her moral purity test. Her rhetoric was crystalline, her followers devoted, but her movement was small and brittle. When a policy window opened that required compromise, she walked away rather than touch the tainted coalition. The opportunity closed, and a rival co-opted the issue with a messy but effective coalition. Shah's moral absolutism made her principled but powerless. If she had practiced ethical flexibility, if she had defined core, non-negotiable aims and allowed tactics to vary, she would have steered policy. Instead, she watched from the sidelines while others acted. And then there is the influencer, call him Jonah, who measured decisions by likes. When controversy arrived, he apologized in a paroxysm of vulnerability because his survival metric was audience favor. That apology did not help. It signaled weakness and invited more attacks. The audience fractured and the algorithms punished him. Jonah's craving made him a hamster on a wheel. The wheel spun him into obsolescence. The fix for him was radical. Stop using public metrics as the scorecard for everything. Instead, Jonah began creating projects with a discrete completion metric, revenue from a course, successful collaboration, a measurable social impact. When his sense of success moved from applause to outcomes, his behavior stopped being negotiable. These are archetypes, but you see them because they are everywhere. They're not moral defects so much as evolutionary compromises. Human beings are wired for social proof and predictable rhythms because those used to help communities. But the modern social environment weaponizes those traits. So your task is to rewire selectively, not to become inhuman. You keep what helps you connect, you remove what helps others manipulate you. Practical tactics, then. Start by auditing your day as if you were an enemy sent to find cracks. Where do you reply instantly? Where do you over-explain? Where do you refuse compromise? Make a list. Then pick one thing from each column and change it for a month. Replace instant replies with a rule. I wait 1 hour for non-urgent communication. Replace over-explaining with a 3-line rule. Say less, mean more. Replace unbending moral stances with a principled test. Is this action required to avoid greater harm or to preserve a core value? Use that test before you declare a non-negotiable. These sound clinical because they are. They work because they create friction for anyone trying to move you without your consent. There's a language shift you can practice immediately that has outsized effect. Replace the phrase, I have to, with I choose to. I have to respond becomes I choose the right time to respond. I have to accept this job becomes I choose whether to accept this job. Choice reverses the power dynamic. When you speak as a chooser, you are no longer a reactor. That simple grammatical practice retrains perception, both yours and others. It's small but potent because language shapes identity. Another tactic, embrace controlled opacity. Don't be mysterious to intimidate, be selective to protect. Share wins without the exact map to them. Reveal competence, not process. If people can see how you did it, they can replicate and exploit you. If they can see only the result, they can't time their move. Controlled opacity also means compartmentalizing vulnerability. Have one person who sees your full process and be cautious about broadcasting your plans to the crowd. A private circle reduces the number of people who can collude against you. Negotiation skills are part of the cure, too. Learn to ask strategic questions rather than give answers. When someone makes a demand, ask, what happens if we don't do that? Or what's your real objective here? These questions force the other side to reveal intent without you ceding position. Silence is a tool in negotiation. Use it. When you stop rushing to fill the void, you force others to clarify themselves or reveal a bluff. The less you fill, the more they do. That acts like a trap for manipulators who depend on answers to calibrate pressure. Let's be frank, none of this is comfortable. People will call you distant, aloof, or cold when you stop being immediately available. You will feel guilty when you don't explain yourself to everyone. You may be criticized for compromising. Those reactions are litmus tests. If you change and the only critique is that you are less available, you've moved in the right direction. If the critiques are precise and tactical, you must listen. But remember the baseline. You're not designing yourself to be loved by everyone. You're designing yourself to be untouchable by those who would use you. There's also a moral calculus here that's worth stating plainly. Protecting yourself is not selfish if it enables you to keep your people and your projects alive. The ruler who dies in glorious virtue can't govern. The activist who burns bridges because they won't negotiate loses the fight. The friend who always says yes and then collapses under resentment becomes unreliable. Survival is an instrument of everything you care about. That's not cynical, it's practical. Finally, cultivate regret like a tool. Regret is different from shame. Regret is retrospective correction. After an interaction, ask, what would I do differently? If the answer is nothing, you're likely either flawless or arrogant. If the answer is one small tweak, try it next time. The loop of action, observation, regret, revised action is the machine for improvement. It's simple, relentless, and effective. Machiavelli's leaders learned by burning and rebuilding. You can use reflection instead of catastrophe. So fix these weaknesses. Be less predictable, hunger less for approval, and let your morality be a guide, not an inflexible chain. The work is mundane, a delayed reply, a withheld compliment, a pragmatic compromise. But the payoff is extraordinary. Fewer traps, fewer public humiliations, fewer people trying to move you like a pawn. The world will still be ruthless, but you will no longer be an easy meal. You'll be a problem, a costly one, and that changes the calculus of those who might consider taking advantage of you. Stand where you are and notice the small habits that invite leverage. Change one this week. Change another the week after. You do not need to transform overnight. You need to persist. The slow accumulation of minor defenses turns you into someone others must reckon with. That's power in its original sense, the capacity to act without being acted on. And when inevitably someone tests you, because they will meet the test with the quiet dignity of someone who has practiced this work. Do not explode. Do not grovel. Do not perform. Move with intent. Say less than necessary. Let silence do its work. If you must respond, let your words be precise and your actions irreversible. There is a strange pleasure in this, the pleasure of a life no longer dictated by the expectations and appetites of others, a life where your choices accumulate instead of dissipating. You are not being invited to become cold or cruel. You are being asked to become deliberate. The world will still reward those who wear virtue visibly and punish those who don't, but it will punish the visibly vulnerable far quicker. Choose resilience over approval, mystery over transparency where it matters, and flexibility over sanctimony. These are the surgical changes that turn you from a target into a position from which you can protect yourself, your people, and your projects. Fix the small leaks first. Delay your replies, stop over-explaining, and allow nuance into your ethics. Then the larger structure will follow. People will test you, they always do. Let them discover you've become a problem worth avoiding. There is freedom there, not the shallow freedom of being liked, but the deep freedom of being respected, of being untouchable in the way that matters. That is the end game, to live on your terms, to choose when to engage and when to withdraw, to make your life a fortress against those who would take advantage of your soft spots. Walk out the door tomorrow with one small change. Make one habit inconvenient for the world, but more convenient for your goals. That one small friction reduces the number of predators willing to try. Over time, you will find your days less fraught, your decisions less reactive, your relationships deeper because they're chosen, not harvested. That is what fixing these weaknesses really gives you. The quiet architecture of control, the dignity of choosing, the rare luxury of not being prey. Fix them now. Not because you want to be ruthless, but because you want to be capable. Not because you want isolation, but because you want agency. The rest, the applause, the sanctimony, the predictable rhythm of being used will fall away. What remains is you, sharpened by careful restraint and practical courage, standing in a life you actually chose. Power, once internalized, doesn't feel like dominance. It feels like stillness. That's what most people misunderstand. They think the strong are loud, decisive, constantly in motion. But real control looks like calm. It's the calm of someone who has already mapped the terrain before stepping foot on it. The calm of someone who can see the trap in your smile and still smile back. Machiavelli knew this. Composure is a weapon, because in moments of chaos, the person who looks least alarmed becomes the one everyone turns to, even the ones who plan the chaos. Here's the paradox. To project calm, you must train for discomfort. The predator's first test is always emotional. They create a situation to make you feel off balance, a small humiliation, an ambiguous message, a test of your patience to see if they can make you move first. Movement is exposure. When you defend too soon, you confirm their power. When you explain yourself, you prove they can make you dance, so you practice stillness. You feel the sting but don't flinch. You let silence stretch. This unnerves manipulators faster than anger ever could, because when you stop reacting, they lose their script. Stillness doesn't mean submission, it's delayed violence. It's the discipline of someone who acts only when the result is guaranteed. The most Machiavellian leaders, Caesar, Bismarck, even modern CEOs who rise quietly through bureaucratic jungles, share that same composure. They act after the other side has revealed themselves completely. And the funny thing is, the world mistakes that composure for kindness. That's fine. Let them think so. The world always confuses politeness with softness until the day it learns the difference. But let's move deeper. Weakness doesn't always look weak. Sometimes it hides behind what the world calls niceness. People who never say no, who pride themselves on being easy to work with, who rush to smooth every conflict, they think they're keeping peace. They're actually feeding predators. Because manipulators don't want kindness, they want access. And nice people, especially those terrified of tension, offer infinite access. They mistake harmony for safety. But harmony is fragile. It breaks the moment someone else decides to exploit it. The truth, you don't owe anyone your constant harmony. You owe yourself discernment. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote that a ruler should learn how not to be good. He didn't mean be evil. He meant learn how to act outside moral reflex when the situation demands it. Modern translation: learn to disappoint people. Learn to say no without the justification monologue. Learn to let others sit in their discomfort. Because once you realize that disappointing people won't kill you, their power over you vanishes. If you can bear to be disliked, you become ungovernable. Most people never get there because they confuse peace with absence of tension. Real peace is strength under tension. It's the confidence to let others frown at you while you hold your line. And here's the psychological truth. People respect the ones they can't easily guilt. They may grumble, they may gossip, but subconsciously they register. This person can't be moved by pressure. That's the birth of authority, not charisma, not fear, but resistance to manipulation. Now, if predictability, approval, and rigidity are the three core weaknesses, there's a deeper root binding them all: the fear of being alone. That's the unspoken hunger driving the others. We crave belonging so badly we let others script us. We make ourselves predictable because we think consistency earns affection. We chase approval because isolation feels like death. We cling to rigid ideals because belonging to a moral tribe feels safer than being alone in ambiguity. Every weakness of character is a trade-off for connection. Machiavelli's wisdom wasn't to abandon connection, but to rule it, to make belonging a choice, not an addiction. You start mastering this by making solitude a training ground, not a punishment. Sit in the quiet until it stops screaming. Learn to hear your own counsel more clearly than the applause or condemnation of others, because solitude is where sovereignty begins. It's where you separate your voice from the noise of the crowd. If you can't stand being alone with your thoughts, someone else will always colonize them for you. Consider history's most powerful figures, from Queen Elizabeth I to Napoleon to Deng Xiaoping. All of them at their core were comfortable in isolation. They could think without needing immediate validation. They used solitude as a forge. It's no accident that when Machiavelli himself was exiled, disgraced, and stripped of office, he wrote The Prince. Isolation didn't destroy him, it clarified him. He went from a servant of power to a student of it. The ones who can endure isolation turn humiliation into analysis, and analysis into strategy. The opposite of that is dependency, the craving to always be seen, to always be included. That dependency leaks into every domain: romantic, professional, political. You start negotiating from weakness because your mind equates rejection with extinction, and people sense it. Even without language, they sense it: the micro-hesitations, the polite laughter, the eagerness to please. Predators are drawn to that like sharks to blood in the water. They test your limits, not out of malice, but because your fear makes it easy. To break that, practice controlled withdrawal. The next time you feel the urge to explain or justify yourself, stop, leave space, let others wonder. That pause, that vacuum, is the start of respect. The ones worth keeping will tolerate your silence. The ones who vanish were never allies, just consumers of your compliance. And speaking of compliance, understand this: society trains you to be compliant through flattery. Every system that wants obedience teaches you to prize being good, but goodness without discernment is servitude. The Machiavellian way isn't rebellion for its own sake, it's strategic obedience. You obey when it benefits you, when the cost of resistance outweighs the gain. You comply outwardly while conserving inner freedom. That's what most people miss about power. It's not about defiance, it's about choice. A man who cannot choose to disobey is not moral, he's conditioned. Let's get practical again. To cure predictability, you must act out of rhythm. To cure approval hunger, you must reject false harmony. To cure moral rigidity, you must embrace ambiguity. How? You train your mind like a spy, not a saint. When someone compliments you, pause before accepting. Observe their motive. When someone provokes you, resist the reflex to defend. Watch their pattern. When someone demands urgency, slow down. Urgency is a manipulation tactic. It short-circuits your reasoning. Every time you delay your reaction by a few seconds, you break the chain that makes you predictable. That delay is not passivity, it's the crucible of power. And when you negotiate, whether with a boss, a partner, or an enemy, remember this principle: power belongs to whoever needs less. The less you depend, the more you dictate terms. This isn't romantic cynicism, it's psychological math. Dependency is leverage. Whoever has less of it controls the tempo. That's why every manipulator first seeks your emotional investment. Once they have it, they own your timing. The counter is detachment, not indifference, but the discipline to stay emotionally self-contained. Feel everything, show nothing until it serves your aim. Think of Churchill during the Blitz, calm, deliberate, composed. The city burned, yet his tone never cracked. That composure was contagious. People took strength from it. Power works that way. Emotion flows from the still to the shaken. The steadier you are, the more others unconsciously orbit you. That's why emotional control isn't about suppression, it's about transmission. You decide what tone the room takes. The person who sets the emotional tone always wins. And here's the bitter truth: people don't attack strength, they test it. If you never get tested, it's not because you're respected, it's because you're irrelevant. Expect resistance, expect misunderstanding, expect envy. These are signals that your energy has mass. What matters is how you metabolize it. Weak people turn resistance into self-doubt. Strategic minds turn resistance into calibration. When someone challenges you, they're revealing their angle, what they value, what they fear, what they're willing to fight for. Information. Every confrontation is data. The mistake is to react emotionally before extracting that data. So here's a habit that transforms the battlefield. When attacked, ask, what are they trying to make me feel right now? That question shifts your brain from the limbic system, emotion, to the prefrontal cortex, reason. It turns pain into reconnaissance. Suddenly, you're not the hunted, you're studying the hunter. This single question turns manipulation into a mirror. And when you act, act decisively. Unpredictability without decisive action is chaos. The purpose of holding back is to strike clean. Machiavelli taught that mercy after victory is wise, but hesitation before victory is fatal. In modern terms, forgive later, execute now. Once you've chosen your response, don't announce it. Don't dramatize it. Just act quietly, irrevocably. That's how power moves in the 21st century, not through spectacle, but through precision. People today confuse exposure with influence. They think being visible means being powerful, but exposure is vulnerability. The most effective operators in politics, business, or social movements reveal only fragments of themselves. They manage perception like an artist manages shadow and light. They know that mystery is magnetic because the human mind fills gaps with fascination. That fascination gives you soft power, influence without visibility. You don't need to broadcast dominance. You let others project it onto you. So as you strip away these weaknesses, remember, strength isn't loud, control isn't visible, and influence isn't declared. It's sensed. It's the gravity that bends other people's behavior around your silence. But what this really builds, beyond tactics and strategy, is something subtler: psychological sovereignty. That's the moment you stop outsourcing your emotions to the reactions of others. It's when insults lose their sharpness, approval loses its pull, and moral chaos stops terrifying you. You still care, but selectively. You move from being reactive to responsive, from predictable to deliberate, from soft to tempered. You become a wall of calm in a storm of noise. That's the transformation Machiavelli wanted for his prince, not cruelty, not paranoia, but lucid strength. The kind that survives betrayal, disappointment, and loss without breaking its shape. And when you reach that point, the world changes texture. People stop trying to manipulate you because they can sense, even if they can't explain why, that you see through the game. You become unreadable, and the unreadable are the only ones truly free. Freedom is a strange thing. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like fireworks or triumph. It feels like silence, the kind you only notice after years of internal noise. The silence of not explaining, not proving, not performing. It's almost eerie at first because your old self keeps waiting for the world to demand something. But it doesn't. The world adapts. It adjusts to your new rhythm. And that's when you realize, all those years, it wasn't other people who caged you. It was your reflex to please, to answer, to reveal. The moment you stop giving that reflex oxygen, the cage rusts open on its own. This is the quiet revolution Machiavelli understood, that power is self-definition under pressure. It's not dominance over others, but dominion over self. You stop being a target the day your inner world becomes harder to trespass. The same way a fortress isn't defined by its banners, but by its walls, your life becomes defined by what no one can take: your focus, your composure, your discernment. Let's bring this down to human ground. Imagine the next time someone tries to provoke you. They insult you, twist your words, or undermine you subtly in front of others. The old you reacts, heart racing, face hot, needing to defend. The new you watches. You see the trap for what it is, an emotional lure, so you breathe once, twice. You look at them not with anger but curiosity. You let them feel their words die in the air, unanswered. The silence grows uncomfortable for them, not you. They fill it with nervous laughter or justification. In that moment, without saying a single thing, you've reversed the hierarchy. You've taught them that you cannot be summoned at will. That's how power operates, quietly, economically, decisively. The world will still test you, it has to. Every system needs to know where its boundaries are. Every group, every relationship, every hierarchy instinctively searches for who will yield. The difference is that now you let the tests come. You don't flinch. You let others reveal their tactics, their tone, their patience. You watch patterns. Because the Machiavellian doesn't rush to categorize people as good or bad, only as useful, dangerous, or neutral. That clarity makes you immune to emotional blackmail. You stop expecting fairness and start observing motives. That's the shift from moral innocence to strategic adulthood. Here's the hard part. Most people don't want this level of clarity. They want comfort. Clarity destroys comfort, because once you start seeing how manipulation works, you can't unsee it. You'll notice it everywhere, in marketing, in politics, in friendships, even in yourself. You'll see how the world runs not on truth, but on incentive. And that realization will tempt you to cynicism. Don't fall for it. The point isn't to despise the game, it's to play it consciously. Cynicism still gives the game your energy. Mastery gives you your energy back. Think of it like this. Machiavelli never told anyone to be cruel for pleasure. He said cruelty should be well used, rare, deliberate, and efficient. The same goes for manipulation. The goal isn't to become a puppet master, it's to become unmanipulable. To know every trick, every emotional hook, every false promise, and smile as it passes you by. You don't need to destroy others to protect yourself. You only need to stop volunteering for pain. There's a subtle psychological shift that happens when you reach that point. You move from reactive living, "Why did they treat me like that?" to diagnostic living, "What did my behavior signal that invited that?" You stop seeing yourself as victim and start seeing yourself as strategist. And that's when you reclaim something modern society quietly stripped away from: agency. The right to decide what any interaction means. The right to assign your own interpretation instead of accepting the emotional frame handed to you. Let's talk about something Machiavelli rarely said directly, but always implied. Compassion, when controlled, is more powerful than cruelty. The strong don't need to perform hardness. They can afford softness, but only by choice. Once you have your boundaries, kindness becomes a luxury, not a weakness. You give it freely, not fearfully. You don't use it to buy approval. You use it to signal control. Because when people sense that your kindness is elective, that you could withhold it but don't, it carries weight. That's what separates sentimental idealists from intelligent leaders. One gives kindness to survive, the other gives it to govern. To live this way is not to reject humanity, it's to refine it. The Machiavellian ideal isn't an empty soul, it's a disciplined one. Imagine your psyche as a palace. Every emotion is a guest. Anger knocks, you decide whether to open the door. Fear whispers, you decide how long it stays. Love too, even love must knock. You decide who enters. Most people hand out keys to anyone who smiles at the gate. Then they wonder why the place is overrun. Mastery isn't a lack of emotion, it's ownership of the house. That's what you're building when you fix your weaknesses. A house with walls, a life with structure, a mind with command. The world outside may rage, but inside, order. Inside, stillness. That's why, paradoxically, the people who practice dark psychology ethically are often the calmest. They've made peace with their own shadows. They no longer run from manipulation. They've studied it, mapped it, domesticated it. Their darkness is disciplined, not destructive. And when you operate from that place, something shifts in how others perceive you. They stop testing you as prey and start approaching you as peer or partner. Your presence feels heavier. Your words carry more silence. Even when you speak softly, people listen longer, because they can feel, even if they can't articulate it, that you see them without being swayed by them. That's real charisma, the absence of need. The kind of presence that doesn't plead, doesn't chase, doesn't sell. It just is. You'll notice a second-order effect, too. Your relationships change. The opportunists drift away. They need constant access, constant reassurance, constant energy, and when they realize you're no longer providing it, they leave. Let them. Their exit is the tax you pay for peace. The people who remain, the ones who respect silence, who don't demand explanations, those are your tribe. Fewer but stronger. You trade quantity for depth, and that trade is the beginning of an empire. But don't mistake this transformation for isolation. The goal isn't to detach from humanity, it's to re-enter it with sharper edges. You'll still laugh, still care, still trust, but now with discernment. You'll give, but you'll also watch. You'll help, but you'll calculate. And in that balance, between empathy and strategy, between heart and armor, you'll discover something the naive never do. Peace that doesn't depend on anyone's permission. Let's strip the philosophy and say it plain. Power isn't about control over others. It's about the absence of desperation. When you no longer need validation, you become magnetic. When you no longer crave certainty, you become dangerous. And when you no longer fear solitude, you become free. These are the three reversals that fix every weakness. Predictability replaced by mystery, approval replaced by purpose, moral rigidity replaced by adaptability. Each reversal costs a version of you, the version addicted to comfort, to certainty, to being liked. That version dies quietly. Mourn it if you must, then bury it. What grows in its place is someone no one can play. This is the point of everything Machiavelli ever wrote. He wasn't teaching princes to be cruel for sport. He was teaching humans to survive in systems that reward exploitation. He was teaching clarity over illusion. He was showing us that morality, divorced from realism, is a luxury of the secure, and that the insecure must learn to be both good and cunning, or perish. You can choose to learn that lesson early, through reflection, or late, through pain, but everyone learns it eventually. You are learning it now. And here's the most liberating truth. When you internalize these principles, you don't have to think about them constantly. They become instinct. You move through rooms differently. You speak slower but mean every word. You walk away faster but never in anger. You recognize manipulation not as threat, but as confirmation of your own discernment. You stop fighting small battles and start designing the terrain itself. You realize you no longer have to win every argument because the game is rigged in your favor the moment you stop reacting to theirs. That's when you reach a higher form of control, what some philosophers call strategic serenity, the state of a person who could act ruthlessly but doesn't need to, the kind of presence that radiates quiet authority without saying a word. It's the power of withheld force. And nothing, not wealth, not fame, not brute strength, commands more respect than the human being who clearly has the capacity for destruction, but chooses restraint. You can see this principle echo through history. The generals who win wars before they're fought, the negotiators who win arguments by asking one well-timed question, the partners who end toxic dynamics by saying nothing at all. The masters of restraint always outlast the masters of aggression. Because aggression burns energy, restraint accumulates it. That's the transformation Machiavelli would want for you, not the power to dominate, but the poise to endure. To be the one in the room whose silence bends others' behavior. To be the one whose calm disarms chaos. to be the one whose detachment terrifies manipulators because they can't find a handle to pull. And when you reach that level, when the noise quiets, when the reflexes fade, you'll realize something profound. You were never weak. You were just loud where you should have been quiet, soft where you should have been still, rigid where you should have been fluid. The strength was always there, buried beneath performance. All you did was subtract everything that diluted it. So stand up a little straighter now, speak a little slower, smile when it serves you, guard your silence like a resource. Let others underestimate you, it's free camouflage. Let them project their assumptions, it's free intelligence. And when the moment comes, the real test, not the small ones, act once cleanly, without hesitation. Then return to your stillness. That's what it means to be untouchable. Not because you hide, but because you choose. Not because you fear the world, but because you understand it. And not because you've become cold, but because you've learned the highest form of warmth, the kind that no longer burns you alive. That is Machiavellian power, stripped of myth and ornament. Not darkness for its own sake, but light that knows when not to shine. Not cruelty, but clarity. Not control over others, but control over self. Fix those weaknesses, build your fortress. And when the world comes knocking, as it always will, answer with the silence of someone who finally, irreversibly, owns himself.